Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our December 15th City Council meeting. My name's Krista Bernasconi, and I'm very happy to see a full house here this evening. We've got lots on the agenda to cover. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask our city clerk to please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Haddishelt.
Here.
Councilmember Alvord. Councilmember Rakucci.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Here. Thank you. I'd like to ask our clerk if she would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sonia, would you please announce the procedures for addressing the City Council?
Good evening and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. At this time that we ask if you have any electronic devices, that if you put them on silent right now. If you've not already picked up an agenda, there are some available at the end of the staff table. If you're here to speak to an item appearing on the agenda, all items will be open for public comment before final action is taken. Speakers are requested to restrict their comments to the item as it appears on the agenda and stay within the required 5-minute time limit. If you're here to speak to an item on behalf of a group, if you identify yourself as such, the mayor does have the discretion to extend your time. If you're here to speak to an issue not appearing on the agenda, you may do so under public comment. Speakers are restricted to 3 minutes apiece. The item that you speak to must be under the subject jurisdiction of the Roseville City Council. And as a reminder, the Brown Act does not permit the council to take action on items that are brought up under public comment. If you do address council this evening at the podium, your time will be monitored. The light will be green when you begin to speak. When the light flashes orange, you have 1 minute left to conclude your comment. And when the light flashes red, please be seated. And if you do address council, we'd appreciate your name for the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we will know this here soon, but that will be Sonia's last time of saying that and memorizing it. So we have a few presentations to give tonight. We will start with item 5.1, a proclamation Tamil Heritage Month, January 2022. I've asked Councilmember Mendoza if he would provide the presentation if you want to meet at the podium.
Good evening. So it's my honor on behalf of the mayor and the city council to present you this proclamation for Tamil Heritage Month. And if you don't mind, I'd like to go over just a few of the highlights of the proclamation. Whereas the Tamil community of the state of California has made a significant contribution to our city and state's diverse culture and population, including preserving and promoting the rich heritage of the Tamil language. And whereas members of the state of California's Tamil community are dedicated to preserving Tamil culture, in part through language schools that are designed to educate young people for generations to come. The Tamil language is widely spoken in India, Singapore, Sri Lanka, and many communities throughout our nation and world. This language is central to their identity, and the Tamil language is recognized as one of the oldest and longest surviving written and spoken language in the world, with a traceable history exceeding 2,600 years. The Tamil community of Roseville is constantly contributing to the economic development of the city and has contributed significantly to bilingual literacy. And during January, members of the Tamil community will celebrate a 4-day harvest festival that coincides with the first day of the month in the Tamil calendar. And whereas the Sacramento Tamil Mandram welcomes and encourages all people across the city of Roseville to participate in this celebration and experience their rich and inclusive heritage. And whereas the city of Roseville is committed to encouraging and preserving Native cultures and heritage within our incredibly diverse community. Now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor Bernasconi and the Roseville City Council, I do hereby proclaim January 2022 as Tamil Heritage Month and encourage the community to join this special observance. So with that, I will present to you this proclamation. And if you'd like to say a few words.
Yep.
be my guest.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Sacramento Tamil Mandram and the greater Sacramento Tamil community, I would like to thank the mayor, the vice mayor, and the honorable council members for declaring the month of January as Tamil Heritage Month. I'm sure many of you are wondering why Tamil Heritage Month falls in the month of January. January is a very important month for the Tamil community worldwide. During January, members of the Tamil community celebrate Thai Pongal, a 4-day harvest festival that is equivalent to Thanksgiving in the U.S. We celebrate nature, beauty, its plenitude, and the farming community for providing to the world. Pongal has been celebrated at least since the 9th century CE. Sharing gifts and food with friends and neighbors, celebrating the role of farmers' livestock in providing the food for humanity, heading outdoors and enjoying nature, folk dances, and traditional Tamil sports such as Jallikattu, similar to bull taming, comprise the festivities. January is a great time to celebrate our history, language, culture, and the contribution of the Tamil community to the world and United States, the beautiful country we call home. We have a large Tamil community in Roseville. On behalf of the Tamil community from Roseville and the greater Sacramento area, I'm privileged to thank you all for this recognition and proclamation. This gesture means a lot to the Tamil community. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Also, we'd like to share a few highlights from history of Tamil language and its literature. First, I'd like to read a few lines of Tamil literature dated 600 BC from the book called Pattinapalai. மொழிப்பல பெருகிய பழித்தீர் தே ஏத்து புலம்பெயர் மாக்கள் கலந்தினி துறையும் முட்டாச்சிறப்பி பட்டினம். The lines clearly relate to these events what we celebrate today. The meaning of this line is there was a well-civilized city where people from different countries and languages were lived together in harmony and peace. Now we all witness that song come true again on another side of the world. Tamil is one of the longest surviving written and spoken language in the world. A recent study of Keeladi exhibition site by the Archaeological Survey by Indian government states that possibly Tamil is a 2,600 years old language, and its history starts from 300 BC. Approximately 76 million people around the globe speak the Tamil language. Tamil is the first language printed in Indian language in a book. The Tamil language has recognized throughout the world, including US. Many school districts US have approved the study of Tamil language for high school credit. And also Tamil language and its literature have been taught at the University of California, Berkeley for over 40 years. With that, we conclude our speech by a famous quote from Tamil literature, Yadum Ure Yavarum Kelir. It means all places in universe is our place, and all citizens in universe are our friends. Once again, on behalf of Sacramento Tamil Mandram and Tamil community of City of Roseville, we'd like to thank Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members and all the staff for declaring the month of January as Tamil Heritage Month. Valga Tamil, Nandri, Vanakkam. Thank you so much. I'd like to take a picture with Mayor.
Okay. Did the council want to join me? We'll take a quick
absolutely.
picture.
Let's do it. Let's take our mask off.
Oh, man, I shouldn't have held that, Brad.
Just turn sideways high. That's what I do.
Right. Like Chris Farley used to do. Where's the weight room?
Oh, can I leave the? That's what you asked me if I got it.
Might as well give up midway.
Yes. Thanks, Kim.
Wonderful. Okay, me first. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Now me. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good lines, Megan.
Yeah, that would be good. Do you want to? No. Okay, thank you.
I heard a cricket out here.
Thank you very much. We have a couple other presentations to give this evening before we get into our other agenda items. The next one is for item 5.2. It's a resolution to honor Kathy Barsotti for her 39 years of service to the city of Roseville, and I have asked Councilmember Rakucci if she would give the resolution, and she will meet you at the podium.
Oh, good. Okay. Because I can talk through the mask with you.
No, this is a great honor, Kathy. I've known you forever, and your parents are here, and your daughter, and so this is like the best. Except I don't want you to retire, but you know, it's a good time.
Yeah, it's time.
It's time. Okay, and I have the resolution, but I'd like to say a few words about it. Whereas Kathy Barsotti began her distinguished career with the city of Roseville on May 18, 1982, and has chosen to retire after 39 years of dedicated service to the city of Roseville's Park, Recreation, and Libraries Department. Whereas Kathy began her career at the city while still in high school as a part-time aquatics recreational aide, and between 1982 and 1991, she served in the roles as lifeguard, swim instructor, assistant pool manager, and pool manager. And I'm sure you took care of, were instructors for my kids.
Yeah.
Here in Roseville.
I think most of the kids in Roseville.
In Roseville, you did, yep. Whereas in 1991, Kathy joined the city full-time as a recreation supervisor and was instrumental in opening the Roseville Aquatics Complex in 1994. And whereas upon her promotion to Parks and Recreation Manager in 1999, she was overseeing recreation facilities, programs, and adventure clubs in the Roseville Sports Center, also opened in 2000 under Kathy's leadership. Whereas Kathy anticipated the soon to open Vernon Street Town Square in 2013, Kathy was tasked to putting together a team to create a vision for events in this space, and has ever since made a vision into reality, and what you see out right in front of us. Whereas for the past 2 years, Kathy added overseeing the city's libraries and the museum, Maidu Museum, to her wide range of responsibilities. And for more than 39 years, Kathy provided outstanding leadership and professionalism, served as a mentor to her staff, and provided exceptional experiences to thousands of Roseville residents. Now, therefore, being resolved that the City Council of Roseville, that Kathy Barsotti is commended for her 39 years of outstanding service to the dedication of Roseville. I'm not going to want to cry.
I know, you and me both.
And congratulate her for her many accomplishments, and wish her a long, healthy, and enjoyable retirement. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, you're welcome. So, please say a few words, and this is for you. Okay?
All right. Okay, I'm not a big crier, but I feel like I'm getting a little emotional, so I wrote down some things that I could just read. First of all, I'm sure everyone's shocked that I have worked anywhere for 39 years. No, I'm kidding. Okay, but thank you, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the council, Dom and Michelle and Sonia. Today is certainly a bittersweet day for me. As the resolution stated, I have been part of the city of Roseville for more than 30 years. It was my first job, and now, after leaving for so many years, it feels like we're breaking up. I'm honored to have been able to serve the residents of the city in which I've lived my entire life. I'm one of those people that believes that what we do makes a difference and it can change lives, especially in parks, recreation, and libraries. People always say to find something you love to do and then make a career out of it, and you'll never feel like it's just a job. I certainly did that. This career has allowed me to meet so many great people who are now, this part's gonna make me cry, lifelong friends. Actually, I could point out to all y'all. And in addition to the people in the community that I would likely have never met without the platform of my positions throughout the years. I've seen the city grow from 17,000, that's how long I've been here, 17,000 residents when I started as a lifeguard to 140,000. I've worked with and for so many women and men that have taught me so much about leading people and taking risks to be the best city we can be. I've learned to speak my mind. Okay, that might have come naturally for me, but I've learned to actually, but what I really learned was to stop talking and listen to what others need and what they can teach me. I'm so proud of the things I and we have accomplished during my time here and retiring, knowing that I'm leaving the Parks, Recreation, Libraries Department in the hands of others who are equally as passionate and devoted to the success of the city. Okay, I saw you crying, so stop. Finally, I'm honored that you took the time to recognize me and my years of commitment and service to the people of Roseville. It has been my pleasure, and I'm truly grateful for all of it, so thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Kathy.
No, Mayor.
We want to make a few brief comments. All right. Do you want to start us off, Councilmember Rakucci?
No, just like I said, Kathy's done many good things. Everything you see around in front of us, anything park and rec orientated, Kathy had her finger in it. And you're really right. A lot of kids that are now in their 40s and 30s remember Kathy, Miss Kathy, who helped her. And that's a big deal. My son was a lifeguard with Roseville Aquatics when he was in school and there. And when you have the kids tugging at you and remembering you for being there, and you have a lot of kids that remember you.
Thank you, Holly.
Kathy, you're going to be missed. You were probably, I'd say at least probably the 6th or 7th person I first met when I moved to Roseville, and our girls were really small, and we put them in swim classes, and we put them through various things, and we've done the I Do museum tours, and it kind of just seems like everything we signed up for, they would send us the book in the mail, and I just knew at some point you'd be there. You weren't like listed in the course description, but I kind of knew it's like Kathy's going to be there. You've just been great, and now that I'm on this side of the dais, and I see what we do as far as a department and what you do, and just how hard you work, and what the people think of you and what you've accomplished. It's no small feat. So I know I'm going to miss you. I know everybody else is going to miss you, and you did a lot of good here. So just always remember that, and you will be missed.
Thank you so much, Tracy.
Vice Mayor Hadashelt?
Yeah, one of the most gratifying things about serving the community in this role is to meet people like you. We have a lot of people like you who are not just employees of our city, but they live in our city. They love our city. I think, didn't we just see each other Saturday at Kohl's on
Yes.
Tommy Apostolos? So
I may not have looked my best. So.
well, that's why I was wearing my Santa hat, because I knew I wasn't looking my best. But that's what creates this wonderful community that Roseville is. It's people that just don't come for the job and the paycheck. They come to give more and just make sure that everyone that they touch feels the sense of warmth that this community gives. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce.
So, let's see, I was president of the Downtown Roseville Merchants. We had a board meeting. The city sent in this new person who had this real gruff voice, and I did not like her from her first 2 sentences. I don't remember what you said, but I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be interesting. By the time, I know, isn't that interesting? By the time
Where are we headed
the meeting,
with this? My parents are here. I'm just,
I know. And like I said, your parents have put up with a lot. No, by the time that meeting was over, I was really impressed. And we were working on revitalizing the downtown. And I know you were we were doing town square stuff. I don't remember all the details, but you ended up just doing this really cool program. And as a business owner at the time, we just wanted people to come downtown to help us survive. And you knew that. And you were just so accommodating, and you were taking ideas and rolling with them and really trying to accommodate the business owners. And I so appreciate that, because you got it. You understood what we were trying to do here. Our numerous parks. I mean, and then after I got elected, working with you on just little things, there's an issue somewhere, you're on it. Hey, Kathy, are you able to help? Oh, I'll take care of it. We had swimming issues.
I remember.
That was great, the way you handled that, though. I mean, that was just fantastic. The community, you're just serving the community. And it was such a blessing to watch you serve. And, the tough thing, 39 years, man, that's a lot of knowledge that's going away here. And I know you've got there's a great team behind you that'll still be here. And now we get to blame you for everything after you're gone. But we just so appreciate what you've given. And I know you're not dying or going away anywhere, so we know you're still around. But thank you so much for your service. You've been great to work with.
Thank you, Scott. Very kind.
This was a roast.
Right. I think I'll just say that your passion, your light, your humility shines, your humor shines in everything that you do, and I've noticed that since day one with you. You're a lucky woman tonight to be able to be surrounded by your colleagues, your parents, and I think that you've been an excellent role model for your daughter.
Oh, thank you so much.
So
I appreciate everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being here.
You want a picture with us?
Okay, and the moment comes for our clerk will be retiring, and I get to do the honors, so I will meet you at the podium.
I
Sonia.
didn't know if the other, she wanted a picture. No, I meant if Kathy wanted a group picture, like we did the group picture with the other.
Sonia, did you prepare your own resolution? No. Okay. All right, this is one you don't. That would just be mean, right? Sonia, I am just so honored to be able to be the first tonight to start on your send-off. So you have a distinguished career with the city, and I like to read part, or if not all of this resolution. So you guys sit tight. We're going to be here for a minute. So if you don't know Sonia, everybody in Roseville knows Sonia. If not, you know that she's had a hand in everything that the city has done, basically. Sonia began her distinguished career with the city in March of 1999 as an assistant city clerk, and on August of 2003, she was promoted to city clerk. She has chosen to retire after 22 years of dedicated service. She began her career in public service as a registrar of vital statistics in San Miguel County in Colorado while working concurrently over 10 years as city clerk in her hometown. She's received her certified municipal clerk designation in 1997, issued by International Institute of Municipal Clerks. And she's received an award of distinction in 2007 from the City Clerks Association of California for her service and accomplishments, and received her Master Municipal Clerk designation in 2017 from the International Institute of Municipal Clerks, of which only 4,700 clerks are issued worldwide. She's received a nomination for City Clerk of the Year in 2020 while assisting a 13-month, once-a-decade review of the city charter with a 9-member citizen commission, while navigating controversial, highly visible topics, including council compensation and benefits, election of mayor and vice mayor, manage unexpected challenges along the way. That's probably what has sent her into retirement. For the first time in Roseville history, voters approved all charter amendments in 2020 when Sonia assisted in educating voters on the critical issue regarding the 2020 election and raised awareness among city council members and staff as the city transitioned to by-district elections. Sonia opened a standalone passport notary and live scan processing center, which is across the street from us, in 2019 with 6 new employees that provide capacity to process 1,200 passport applications per month, even during the pandemic, all while staffing the Roseville Independent Redistricting Commission and continuing to process over 500 Public Record Acts requests during the governor's stay-at-home orders. Sonia assisted the city council in filling a mayoral vacancy when outgoing mayor was sworn in as supervisor, at which time the charter didn't provide a clear process for determining the event of such vacancy. She promoted engagement and transparency during the pandemic shutdown by assisting in transitioning many city council meetings to all virtual format due to health guidelines, and always ensured access for the public to view these meetings. Sonia, you have been an outstanding example of leadership, customer service, professionalism, always showing dedication to quality work and loyal to the city of Roseville. You've received exceptional feedback from department heads, staff and city clerk departments, and all other departments of the city and members of the public. You've done so much.
Thank you.
So on behalf of the City Council of the City of Roseville, I'd like to acknowledge and commend you for 22 years of outstanding service and dedication to the City of Roseville. Congratulations on your accomplishment, and I wish you a long and healthy retirement.
Thank you.
Best to you.
I'm going to make my comments from the dais. All right, I got to put my glasses on. At that age of retirement when I need my eyeballs. So thank you very much for the resolution. It's important for me to offer thank yous as I head into my retirement. First and foremost, I want to thank my family for always supporting me and not complaining when I was consumed with work or attending over nearly 1,000 night meetings, I calculated. So thank you to my family for your love and support. I want to thank City Manager Dominic Casey for his daily leadership and insights. You've been great to work for. I want to thank, and I'm also thankful for the opportunity to work with the many city council members over the past years. And I thank you for your service to the community. I know it's a hard job. My career was challenging and rewarding. I was privileged to be part of the department head team, which continues to achieve success that we can all be proud of. But most importantly, I'd like to thank city staff and the city clerk's department and the passport facility for working tirelessly in support of a common goal to serve the community. There has not been a day in over 22 years that I did not want to come to work because I love my job. What a blessing to be able to say that. Again, thank you.
Say something if I could.
Absolutely.
I wasn't prepared. I did type up something really quickly. I can't say enough about Sonia. So just everything for you today. So I speak on behalf of the city clerks and passport office, and I really hope that they think this is okay. But Sonia has been a steady force in the city clerk's office. We will all miss Sonia. She has built and rebuilt the city clerk's office, as well as add a large passport and live scan facility to the city of Roseville. Sonia has an amazing memory, from minor details regarding random procedures that she hasn't done in many years, to the history of the city of Roseville, the municipal code, council meeting items, different boards and commissions, mayors, city managers, and some staff and their antics. And so I would love to go into detail, but I can't. Those secrets stay with us. So we're also very grateful to have Sonia's help and calming nature during the past 2 years through all the changes and challenges. And we will all miss Sonia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to make some comments? Start us off.
Dominic, want to say so? Yeah, Dominic.
You'll hit me?
Yeah.
I feel like we've said goodbye to a lot of good friends and colleagues over the last 2 years. I think few sting as much as Sonia leaving. From a personal note, always being there to share a perspective, to give guidance, or just a listening ear. Sonia has been just steadfast. Of 18 executive positions over the past 10 years, of 4, Sonia is one of those 4 walking out the door, and with her a ton of institutional knowledge and just care for this. And what I would say is, Sonia, you've left a legacy to be proud of, and we're going to miss you, and we know we'll see you. You're not going to be a stranger, but you will be greatly missed.
Thank you.
Congratulations on a job well done.
I've known Sonia a long time, from the very first time that I ran and until, to now. But I would have to say Sonia made coming to our city user-friendly. People who might have wanted to be on a commission or find out about a commission or what it's like to be on council, she took a handful of papers that might be really difficult to understand because it's like in a different language, and made it so that maybe you really do want to run, and what does it entail? And I think that's really important because sometimes people want to, but they just need more information, and you were always there for other people. You were there for me, for current council, past councils, and then when there's new rulings that come along that we need to add to our repertoire of doing, and she'd let us know. So I would, and besides being kind and nice and just a really good person, you just made Roseville opened up and welcomed people to come and join us, and that's really big. So thank you for what you've done, and I don't see you or Kathy or any of you guys disappearing because we won't let you. You got to do something and be around. So thank you for your service.
Welcome.
Sonia, it was very interesting when you said in your notes, in your words, that there was never a day that you didn't want to come to work, because I personally felt that I may have caused a few days where you didn't want to come to work. As a candidate, I reflect back on a lot of our conversations, and you were always so polite when you could have said something else, and your catchphrase was, "No one's ever asked me that," or "Let me go research that," which now I understand that was code. I'm glad that we've been able to keep the relationship that we have now that I'm up here. And all of the boards and commissions I've served on and my runs for council, there's always people that I know helped me and that are responsible to have gotten me here. And you're one of those names, by far. I mean, there's a lot of people to thank, but if it wasn't for you, that first meeting, those questions, that sense of caring, about what you do and how you provide that guidance. I don't think many cities are blessed with that kind of dedication. And I know from me personally, it was a huge help. And I've seen you in action, and you've just become such a good friend. You've been so gracious to me and my family over the years. My daughter still talks about you to this day when she's over playing volleyball for Synergy. It's Sonia this and Sonia that, and what's Sonia's daughter? It's like you've just become a household name for us, and it's going to be really sad to not see you in the city clerk's office. It's going to be sad to not see you up here, but it will give me cause to seek you out for lunches and other things and bother you with questions you don't have the answers to. But now I'm afraid, since you're not having to be polite as a elected or as a city employee, I might not get the same polite response. So
You will.
I look forward to that. All right, good to know. Well, congratulations on your retirement, and thank you for everything, Sonia.
Thank you very much.
Sonia, did you say 1,000 night meetings?
Correct.
I mean, look, this is just one part of the package for tonight, okay? I'm going to make a noise. The fact that you, over your 22 years, and wait, San Miguel, I think I looked up the population of San Miguel County. It's like 5,000 people, right?
Correct.
All right. Came to the big city.
Yeah.
All right. said, I'm not afraid of the big city, and took the big city on and did, as my colleagues, as our city manager has said, have done an exemplary job. And one of those exemplary jobs, as your colleagues in the city clerk have pointed out, is to mentor them and to give them the confidence to achieve, to serve the city well. While you sit here with us, you're often that first point of contact for the community who has questions, right? And you treat them as openly and transparently and comforting and fairly as you do anyone else, whether it's in your personal life or your daily life. And so, I know, like Councilman Mendoza said, I'm sure there's been a couple of times where you want to grab me by the ear, right? And just say, Bruce. So, I think the first time I walk into the city clerk's office to get my mail and I realize you're not there, it's really going to hit me. Thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
Our county clerk, Ryan Ronco, has told me multiple times that you are the best clerk around. I think back when I went through the Leadership Roseville program, I think that's when I first met you, but I didn't know you until 2012 when I was running for election. And I got to say, Tracy, your comments were just great. You just, and I know you do this with everybody, you held my hand emotionally. It felt like just helped me get through it, took my stupid questions, gave me really good answers. It just guided that process. And it was scary and, first time being a candidate. And I know from that perspective, you and your staff were just fantastic. And I've heard your staff talk about you, their kindness and their, not just to us, but to the community. It comes from leadership, and that comes from you. The public records requests that I have seen you guys get over the years, it's crazy, the amount of work that our city clerk's office does because somebody wants to do some research. And they have a deadline, and it's just a massive amount of work. In the live scan thing, that was very creative. There's so many things I kind of went on last time. Today we're in our minutes, we're under 2 people here, but there's 4 people that are retiring this council meeting. It's 106 combined years that we're losing out of the city of Roseville. That's a huge chunk. And the knowledge that you have in your department is just tremendous. And your staff is great, but there's going to be a hole. There's going to be such a hole there. And Dom's got such a challenge to fill that spot and get them trained up, and so your staff can train them. But thank you. I just want to say thank you. You've been fantastic to us and our community. You're just a gem. I'm really sorry to miss you. How sad
I leave you in very good hands.
I know. Sorry for getting emotional there. I'm glad you did, though, finally. That was good. You said you weren't going to, so.
I said I wasn't, too.
No, I know. So you caused it.
Yeah.
Sonia, I will wrap up our remarks and just share that our residents can be thankful for a well-run city because your fingerprints are all over it. You do much of the work behind the scenes. The word clerk doesn't even begin to explain all of the work that you do for our city. I've known you for many years, and it's an honor to be able to sit next to you. You've only kicked me a couple times. You've always, all the words that have been used to describe you are true. You're steadfast. You're a total professional. We're going to miss you. And I hope you have the best retirement and many happy Sundays. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight, too. Remember when we've ever had this many presentations, but we will get started or continue through our more of our business agenda. I will open it up to public comment, which is now a time for anyone to address the council on any item that's not on the agenda. Do we have anyone here tonight? I have one card here. Peter Friedrich, do you want to come forward and make your comments? Good evening.
Good evening. Almost 75 years ago, in January 1947, several members of the radical Hindu nationalist paramilitary who had just emigrated out of India gathered to form the international wing of that paramilitary, the Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh, or HSS. Meanwhile, back in the Indian subcontinent on the eve of India's independence, the paramilitary gathered in the northern region of Jammu and Kashmir to stage its first large-scale massacre of minorities. Accounts shrouded in the fog of conflict vary, but historians estimate that the RSS and its collaborators slaughtered anywhere from 20,000 to 200,000 Muslims. A few months later, in January 1948, India had just gained its independence when an RSS member assassinated Gandhi, specifically because he hated him for supposedly being too peaceful towards Indian Muslims. Gandhi's assassination by an RSS member led to the first of 3 bans on the RSS. Meanwhile, outside India, the RSS's international wing, the HSS, flourished and expanded around the globe, setting down roots far and wide, including here in the U.S., and eventually even here in California, even here in Roseville. Last month, the city of Roseville, no doubt in innocent ignorance of the group's ties to its parent organization, the violent RSS paramilitary, welcomed the HSS into these very chambers to honor them with a formal proclamation. Meanwhile, back in India, the RSS, despite constantly and violently putting into practice its belief that Christians and Muslims especially are foreign elements and traitors to the nation who must be cleansed from the land, has gained such strength and power that it now controls the entire country. With total impunity, it is at this very moment routinely flooding the streets with mobs who attack religious minorities to spread intolerance and hatred in its pursuit of the victory of evil over good. That the city of Roseville, albeit unwittingly, chose Diwali, the Hindu festival of lights which celebrates tolerance, compassion, and the victory of good over evil, as the occasion to honor the international wing of the most xenophobic and genocidal organization in India, serves, unintentionally but tragically, as an insult not only to the countless victims of the RSS, but also as an insult to the vast diversity and traditional pluralism of the Hindu religion itself. Since, as Hinduism beautifully teaches, the whole world is one family, we must realize that it is ultimately self-destructive to platform the HSS here in America, even while the RSS is ripping our family apart back in India through acts of terror, which are enabled and empowered by the HSS's commitment to serving as an international support base and propaganda mouthpiece for the RSS's fascist agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have here one copy for each counselor of my book, which details the fascist agenda of the RSS.
Okay, thank you. You can leave them at the end of the staff table and we'll grab them. Thank you. I have another card from Michael B. If you want to come forward.
Can I give you guys a handout?
Sure. You can just give them and we'll pass them down. Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Michael Bagley, and I'd like to speak out against mandates. And I was just wondering, what will the board do about the mandates? You know, the mask mandates, the vaccine mandates, and the testing mandates. I'd like you guys, and myself, many people would like you guys to create a resolution against the mandates, okay? So I created this document after being encouraged by the most recent mandate. And I'll start out with a law. There's about middle of the handout. 21 U.S. Code 360 BB3 states that informed consent must be given, and we have the option to refuse any emergency use authorized device, of which the mask, the PCR test, and the COVID vaccine are all EUA. That is federal law, no guidance, no health mandates, no government coercion. Changes our rights under the law. The ADA prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability. Title III, Public accommodations must comply with basic non-discrimination requirements that prohibit exclusion, segregation, and unequal treatment. The legislature passed AB 262 in 2017, which weaponized the health officer and redefined an outbreak. And then I'll drop down to things that don't make sense, down at the bottom. We have never been quarantined the healthy. Why isn't there any discussion about a healthy lifestyle? Society was told to quarantine for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. We're going on 2 years. The asymptomatic transmission. People cannot transmit something without symptoms. Listen to Dr. Peter McCullough Okay, and then I have a link for you. And I also sent you soft copies as well. Wear a mask for other people. If your mask works, why don't I need to wear one? Where's the science, okay? Like, why don't you just wear 2 masks if you're really concerned about it, okay? Children are not a vector for COVID, yet they are vaccinating them and masking them, mandating the vaccine. Yet the media and big tech are silencing reports of adverse reactions and deaths. Big tech is censoring the dissenting voice. That's what we're not hearing. We're not hearing a dissenting voice. Why are they vaccinating the whole world? The use of vaccines and antibiotics cause bacteria and viruses to mutate to become stronger. I learned that in a microbiology class in college. Trust the science. When is science ever settled? I mean, isn't that part of science that we always question the science, right? Okay. The California institutes a mask mandate while Florida has an elderly population without masks and they're completely open. So what's going on in California? Okay, up at the top, the COVID jab is not a vaccine, it's an mRNA gene therapy, and then I have a link from Moderna. The pharmaceutical companies cannot be sued. In 1986, Reagan signed a bill exempting pharmaceutical companies. Pretty good business model, huh? You can't be sued. COVID shot has not been approved by FDA. Comirnaty was approved, but it's not available in the U.S. A lot of people think it's been approved, but it's not. Since January 2021, approximately 20,000 people have died, according to VAERS, Vaccine Adverse Reporting System. This is a system created by the CDC. A Harvard study shows that only 1 to 5% of the actual adverse reactions are reported. Okay. All vaccines come with an insert. Yes, yet the vaccine, the COVID jab doesn't have doesn't have an insert. Remdesivir adverse effects mirror that of COVID-19. In many cases, patients are put on remdesivir, vented, and then die. Okay, and I have a link. Let's see. Okay. I'm good on time, right? Okay.
Oh,
so
you're not good on time. You've actually exceeded your time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. So if anybody, can I just say one more thing? If anybody wants a copy of this, just send an email to plaster@freedomco.net. I can send you a hard copy, a soft copy. Thanks.
Thanks for your comments, Mike. Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to make a comment on any item that's not on the agenda? Okay, we'll do one at the end of our meeting as well. So I'll close public comment and we'll move into the consent calendar procedures.
So all matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine in nature and will be passed by one motion. There will be no discussion on consent calendar items unless a member of the City Council, staff, or the public requests specific items be removed. This evening, Mayor Krista Bernasconi will recuse from approving item 7.11, which is the Construction, Resident Engineer, and Inspection Services On-Call Professional Services Agreement, stating a conflict of interest due to a source of income. So I have no other requests just to have items removed from the consent calendar. So may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as recommended?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddashelt.
Yes.
Councilmember Albert.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
Councilmember Bonanza.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we will move into the first of our resolutions. Item 8.1 is a street name change, Sierra Glen Drive to Nicole G. Drive.
Good evening, council members. I'm Mike Eismer, Development Services Director. I'd like to introduce Scott Miller, our GIS analyst, who's going to be giving the presentation this evening.
Mayor Bernasconi and council members. As Mike said, my name is Scott Miller. I'm the GIS analyst in Development Services. And the item before you tonight is a request from landowners West Park Communities and JMC Homes to change the name of Sierra Glen Drive to Nicole G Drive, which is in the specific Sierra Vista specific plan area. And this is to honor Roseville native Marine Sergeant Nicole G, who died in the light of duty on August 26th of this year. As you can see in this location map, Sierra Glen Drive is a roughly 1.2 mile undeveloped primary residential road, which is again the Sierra Vista specific plan. And when built, it will connect Westbrook Boulevard to the west, Upland Drive to the east, and include an intersection with Market Street. So with a request like this, we start with routing it to our colleagues in the dispatch to review and approve. And once they approve the name, we will notify the requesters and start our own review process. And in this effort, we will look at the impacts that it might have for the street name change for various things like existing addresses, final maps, improvement plans, and permits. Fortunately, with this undeveloped road, there is a minimal impact to any of those types of things. Once the review is done, we will start making the necessary maps and documents. These include a street name reassignment exhibit, address change maps, and then ultimately our council communication. Once council approves the street name change and the resolution has been adopted, we will effectuate our name change and address change in GIS, which is the city's system of record for this information. Finally, an email is distributed to all the various internal and external stakeholders, informing them of this change. In conclusion, the request complies with the city street naming standards, and because this roadway is not constructed, no homes or businesses are currently located on the roadway that would have been impacted by this proposed street name change. At this time, staff recommends that City Council adopt the resolution approving the street name change in the Sierra Vista specific plan from Sierra Glen Drive to Nicole G. Drive. That concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I know I will open it up to public comment. I know that we have the developers here with us that I'm sure will speak to the item. We also have Nicole's sister with us. Misty Foucault is with us. So before I open up to public comment, does the council have any comments before we?
No questions.
Okay.
No.
I'll open it up to public comment and to ask if anyone wants to come forward to speak on this item.
Good evening.
And Misty did slip in the door, so I know you haven't had a chance to meet her, but I know you do have something for her.
Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi, members of the Roseville City Council. I'm John Tallman on behalf of West Park Communities and JMC Moyer Investments Group this evening. Also here with me is, from my office, is Ryan O'Keefe, who's been helpful in getting the prop that I'm going to share with you here shortly to hopefully close any questions in your mind about your action this evening. I am here tonight to support the recommended change of Sierra Glen Drive to Sergeant Nicole G. to recognize Roseville's hero. Today we hear about disconnected youth, self-absorbed, lacking appreciation for freedoms we enjoy as Americans. Sergeant G was anything but that. While I did not know Sergeant G, I read the many stories that followed her tragic death. I attended the beautiful tribute to her that was held here in the town square. I heard the stories about her love of country and commitment to preserving our freedom despite the risk. The iconic photo of her holding an infant that she captioned, "I love my job," spoke volumes about her understanding of her duty and her role to protect the freedom we so often take for granted. Sergeant G was a great soldier. She was a hometown girl who should not be forgotten. When Mayor Bernasconi approached us about some form of recognition of Sergeant G, we immediately knew we had to find a way to do it. And working with JMC Homes, we identified Sierra Glen Drive as a significant roadway that bisects three other major arterials that will all intersect with Baseline. So anybody traveling to and from the west side of Roseville is likely to come in contact with this roadway. I know that changing street names is a tough process, and once you open the door, there are many worthwhile reasons why a street name should be changed. But I ask you to think about the magnitude of the sacrifice of Sergeant G made, and the simple honor of naming a name will keep her memory alive. She is a hero. My cousin, Sergeant Matthew Tallman, was killed in Iraq in 2007 when the Black Hawk helicopter he was in crashed. I wear this gold star pin in his memory. Matthew's memory lives on in his family, but has faded from the public memory. Let's not let that happen here in Roseville. Let us remember the incredible sacrifice made by this young woman, Sergeant Nicole G., a true patriot and a true hometown hero. I urge your support of the renaming of the road to Nicole G. Drive. And to provide graphic image, I'd like to share with you a mock-up of a sign that could be in place by the end of next summer. I would like to thank Sierra Safety, who worked with us to come up with a couple of designs and actually produce this mock-up. And so with that, thank you very much for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your comments. I know that this is an item that we will be voting on tonight. Is there anyone else tonight that would like to make a comment? I can close public comment if there's nothing else. We'll close public comment. We can take it back to the council and then have a vote. Councilmember Alvord?
When I first saw this on the agenda item, I was anxious to see the map of where they were going to choose, expecting it to be like a little road somewhere, someplace, and going through the hassle of changing the name, and somebody who lives on the street's going to not like it because their address changed. And when I saw this map, it was really cool because you're right. I mean, it splits 3 major roads, and so that's a memory that a lot of cars are going to see. They're going to see that street name, and it doesn't affect anybody right now. It doesn't change, anybody's address, which is also much easier for us to deal with. But I love this. I like the location. I think it's going to be a neat thing. A lot of people will see this sign when they drive through the community. And I think a lot of our residents are very aware of the situation that took place. And so I think this is good for the community. So I'm really glad that it is where it is. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who wouldn't be supportive of this? It's an honor. I mean, there are many things we pass on a daily basis, and often wonder who was Biz Johnson, right? So this is a reminder that keeps the legacy of the guardian angel of Kabul front and center in folks' minds. I do have a question about the design. I assume it goes through design review and things. I mean, so could you answer that?
Sure. The only item on the agenda tonight is the actual name change of the street.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mendonça?
John, Ryan, thank you for working on this. Thank you for bringing this forward. I couldn't have said any of it any better than you did, John, so I'm not going to try. I think this is a great idea. I think it's a no-brainer in my opinion. So, yeah, I think this is a good idea. Thank you.
I'm happy that it's a new area. There's nobody lives on it. It's not developed yet, and so that the new people who'll be there, this will be a new sign, and they'll see it. And I think actually every time I see a sign with someone's name on it, I always, like you mentioned, Biz Johnson. It makes you think, who are they? What did they do, or why their name's on here? And I think when they see Nicole G. Drive, it's going to be the same way. So it won't be just for today; it'll be for all the time, because you always go, why, who? I mean, we know, but like you said, like you talked about your nephew, you want that memory of people to live on and what they meant, and what they meant for Roseville and to their families. So I'm supportive.
Thank you. John and Ryan, please thank John Moyer Investments as well. I want to thank you for, when I had the conversation with you, you took it up and owned it, and I really appreciate that. I know there's probably a couple other comments we'll make maybe after we vote when you can present the sign to Misty, but for this time being, let's have a vote on this.
The motion is to adopt resolution number 21-487, approving the renaming of Sierra Glen Drive to Nicole G. Drive. May I have a motion?
In honor of our mayor, who is a veteran, I will make that motion.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddishelt.
Yes.
Councilmember Alvord.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendonça.
Absolutely.
Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes, thank you. Misty, do you want to take the sign, or if there's any comments you want to make?
Thank you, guys. This is really, it's really overwhelming in a really great way. And I'm not going to say much, but thank you, guys. It's honoring for myself and for my family to provide the pride for her. Thank you, guys.
Roseville's really proud of your sister, and she's our hero. So thank you for being here. I know that you have your own young family at home, so thanks for sticking it through us tonight. Thank you, Misty. Okay, we will move on to item 8.2, which is the local road safety plan. Hi, Jana.
Hi. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the City Council. My name is Stephanie Keeman, and I'm the Engineering Manager for Public Works here tonight for our Director, Jason Tchaikovsky. The item we're here to present to you tonight is the city's first Local Road Safety Plan, or LRSP for short. And to give this very brief overview of its important traffic safety document is Senior Traffic Engineer Jana Cervantes.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So first, I would like to acknowledge and thank our stakeholders for their involvement throughout the process. As part of the LRSP, local stakeholders were included to ensure that all safety partners were involved in this planning effort. The stakeholder group is comprised of elected officials and staff members from Public Works, Police, Fire, just to name a few. And I would also like to thank our consulting team from Kimley Horn for guiding us through the process. As Stephanie mentioned, my presentation tonight will give a brief overview of the development and purpose of the LRSP by providing some background on what exactly is an LRSP and why it was developed, a timeline and process on the development of the LRSP, some key findings and takeaways, and our next steps on how we plan on using this important safety document. First, what is an LRSP? And I apologize for the number of acronyms I'm going to use in this next statement. The number one goal of the LRSP and all traffic safety programs is to reduce fatalities and serious injury collisions. To try and accomplish this, federal regulations require that every state has a Strategic Highway Safety Plan, or SHSP, in coordination with federal, state, local, and private sector safety holders. The SHSP establishes goals and objectives using the 4 E's of traffic safety, which are engineering, enforcement, education, and emergency services. The Local Road Safety Plan is an extension of the SHSP as a way to provide local agencies opportunity to address our unique roadway safety needs in their own jurisdictions, while still contributing to the success of the statewide SHSP. The process of preparing an LRSP provides a proactive approach to systematically identify and analyze traffic safety concerns in our city and recommend improvements. And you might ask, why are we developing an LRSP? The City of Roseville received a Highway Safety Improvement Grant, or an HSIP, to complete the Local Road Safety Plan. This document identifies locations that could be good candidates for future HSIP funding and upcoming grant cycles. In addition, all future SHIP funding cycles will require an LRSP to be adopted in order to apply and receive funding. The next slide shows a quick overview of the timeline and tasks that went into the development of the Local Road Safety Plan. A couple of the key takeaways to point out is the large amount of time that was spent collecting and analyzing data and collision history, since the LRSP is a data-driven safety plan. After the data was analyzed, a technical memo was developed that included the top collision locations as well as the top collision causes. The stakeholder group met in the field last spring at 10 priority locations selected based on the crash analysis and stakeholder input. This meeting provided an opportunity to perform field assessments and offer another opportunity to solicit feedback from members of the multidisciplinary stakeholder group. In addition, potential safety countermeasures for each location were recommended and discussed at the field review meeting. Our stakeholder group then whittled down the locations for further review, which included additional in-depth analysis. Out of that analysis came a short list of locations that are recommended for future projects and/or safety traffic countermeasures. And some of the key findings that came out of the development of the LRSP based on the last 5 years from 2015 to 2019 are 116 out of the 6,000 crashes in Roseville resulted in a fatal or serious injury. A majority of the crashes occurred at intersections. Our vulnerable road users, primarily bikes and pedestrians, accounted for about 5% of those collisions. Speed and aggressive or distracted driving was listed as a cause in the majority of the collisions. To try and reduce or eliminate these fatalities and serious injuries, the LRSP has identified some potential approved grant-funded countermeasures to include in future or standalone grants and projects. This list is a sample and does not include all the potential countermeasures, but some of them listed as far as engineering countermeasures go are signal coordination and dilemma zone detection, high friction treatments on curves, static signs with LED lighted borders, which you may have seen in downtown and around more and more, enhanced roadway lighting, primarily at uncontrolled crossings, colored crosswalks and bike lanes, and yellow outline signal indications. And some of the non-infrastructure countermeasures include some high visibility enforcement efforts by PD, public safety messaging, and education. And our next steps. The City of Roseville has completed this LRSP to guide the process for future transportation and safety improvements for years to come. Using the analyzed data and results from this LRSP, the city will apply for grant funding for safety improvements throughout the city that address the various emphasis areas identified, as well as actively seek out other funding opportunities to improve safety for all road users. We will collaborate with established stakeholders and neighboring municipalities as improvements are made to create a cohesive transportation network. And we will also complete an annual review of traffic safety data to continuously use the most up-to-date information to evaluate existing and proposed improvements for a safer transportation network in Roseville. And in conclusion, we are asking City Council to formally approve and adopt this LRSP in an effort to reduce serious injury and fatal collisions, and as well as apply for future traffic safety grants. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Does council member have any questions of staff before we get started? No.
A couple questions. Mm-hmm. Baseline Road is or is not in what you evaluated?
Well, as far as a specific location, it wasn't one of the ones that came out of it, but some of the countermeasures could be used on that roadway as well. So as the yellow outline signal indicators, coordination once we get our signals out there. So it wasn't a specific location, but a lot of the countermeasures can be used along that corridor.
Right. Yeah, and we're hearing a lot from the new homeowners out there about it's wide open spaces out there. So
yeah.
And it seems counterintuitive, but congestion is a kind of a traffic calming thing.
You are
right?
absolutely correct. That is correct.
And do we have a list of roadways?
The specific locations were whittled down are primarily along Kirby. We had Kirby Riverside, Kirby Melody, Kirby Sunrise, along 65. So we tried to pick several locations that were had different characteristics so that we could address it as a whole, and then be able to use those countermeasures in other locations throughout the city where those problems might pop up.
Yeah, so Pleasant Grove at the entrance to Walmart or Chick-fil-A.
That was one of them.
All right, Pleasant Grove at East Roseville Parkway, right?
Yeah. So some of the locations that came up that we know where we are going to have some future projects coming up in the near future, we didn't spend a lot of time looking at it as a specific location because we know there's going to be some future changes coming in the next few years.
Great. I appreciate that because we'll all be able now to direct folks who ask us these questions to this part of the agenda so they can know that we're proactively addressing these. Thank you, Mayor.
Good. Okay. I'll open it up to public comment. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak to this item? Okay, I'll close public comment. And are there any other comments to staff that? I will just say I got to spend time out there with you, you are everything traffic, and I learned so much from you. And I will just say, there was one day that I was in my neighborhood, and it was after school, and there was a school crossing guard, and I looked at the name tag, and it said Jana, and I was like, Jana, what are you, usually you're in an office. Well, I think somebody didn't show up for work that day. I mean, that just shows how dedicated you are.
Other duties as assigned, I think.
So I appreciate you bringing this forward and all the hard work that you and your team did on this.
And thank you for taking the time to come out with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. And we get questions often about people want a certain speed bump, they want a traffic study in residential neighborhoods, and you're always fantastic about responding to them. So I think that just is shown here in this report. So thank you very much.
The motion is to adopt resolution number 21-485, adopting the local road safety plan. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddashelt.
Yes.
Councilmember Alvord.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 9.1, International Union of Operating Engineers, Stationary Engineers, Local 39 Memorandum of Understanding and Salary Schedule Update. Good evening, Stacy.
Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi, council members. I'm pleased to be here this evening. I'm Stacy Peterson, Human Resources Director, and I'm actually going to be presenting on item 9.1, 9.2, and 9.3 together. These MOUs, or terms, conditions, and understandings, have similar major elements, so it made sense to present them together. The current MOUs expire on December 31st of this year. And let me clarify really quick, just for brevity. I just said the term MOU, and that refers to Memorandum of Understanding, just to be clear. And for the management and confidential group, because it's an unrepresented group, they have terms, conditions, and understandings, so I'll refer to them as terms. Before I get started, I wanted to first share a little information about the different bargaining groups. I think it's important to help the community understand what the Local 39 group entails. So first, they're called the International Union of Operating Engineers, Stationary Engineers, Local 39, and I'll refer to them as Local 39 for short. It's our largest union that represents employees that work in most departments across the city to perform a variety of services for the community. This includes jobs like accountants, clerks, engineers, inspectors, code enforcement, maintenance workers, mechanics, various analysts, refuse truck drivers, various technicians, and treatment plant operators. So it's a very broad group that serves the city. The Roseville Police Association represents the non-sworn professional personnel in our police department, which includes our dispatchers, community services officers, animal control officers, police records clerks, and many more classes. And they all provide very important services to the city. And in addition, this evening, we're presenting terms for the unrepresented management confidential group. And they help to lead, train, recognize, develop, and support the city's workforce toward exceptional results and responsive customer service. So for these groups, we started bargaining in September, and we reached tentative agreements in November that were subsequently ratified for the Local 39 and RPA. I'd like to, before digging into the major elements, thank the bargaining teams, because this is a lot of work for the negotiating teams who participate in all of the meetings throughout that process. I'd like to specifically recognize Jonathan Levi, who is our Senior Deputy City Attorney, who served as the Chief Negotiator for the city with Local 39, and also Chuck Thiel, who was the negotiator for Local 39. In addition, in the HR office, Dave Raw, who's our risk manager, he served as the city's chief negotiator for RPA. And I'd like to thank Jerry Camus for his work with us as the chief negotiator for the Roseville Police Association group. There were many complex issues to work through collaboratively so that we could reach these agreements within the authority granted by City Council. Overall, it is the city's goal to remain competitive for recruiting great talent and to retain experienced and skilled staff, as the cost of turnover is very high. So next, I'll share the major elements of the successor MOUs and terms. These agreements are a 2-year term, so they'll end in December of 2023. For compensation, the first year includes a 3% base wage increase, which will be effective January 1st of 2021. In year 2, a labor market study will be conducted to set salaries at the 55th percentile instead of market median to retain the highly engaged city team and support recruitment challenges. This will add approximately 1.5% to wages above market median to help the city remain competitive in our market area. These labor market adjustments will be presented to Council prior to January 2023. In 2016, the city established a second salary schedule B. So we have a salary schedule A and a salary schedule B. That increased the number of salary steps and reduced the percentage between salary steps from 5% to 2.5%. The agreements revised salary schedule B by removing 3 salary steps to create 3% between steps, except at the 2 entry steps, using the same top and bottom step of the salary ranges. The city sought to be more consistent with our market agencies by creating a tiered flex credit benefit contribution toward the health benefits. This means that we've created a different contribution amount for an employee only versus an employee plus 1 dependent, and the family level, since the premium amounts are different. The city contribution at the employee-only level was reduced by $58 per month and still fully covers the cost of premiums at that level. The goal was to bring the family level contribution amount to 80% of premium costs. So $150 per month was added at the family level to put that at 80%. In year 2, we again are trying to keep the city's contribution at about 80% of the family premium costs. The city compensated time off, or CTO, which is accrued in lieu of overtime, will be capped at 100 hours to create consistency across these 3 groups. And this reduced 2 groups from what exists as a 160-hour cap, and that reduces future liabilities for the city. Also, the non-recurring holiday that has periodically in the past been called by the president or the governor of the state, which has created some unexpected closures of city services or loss of productivity, this provision was removed from these 3 MOUs and terms. There were a few smaller items spelled out in the staff report for changes like shift differential or a few special pays for certifications in our fleet division to support recruitment and retention challenges. So I'll refer you to the staff report for those. Overall, the fiscal impact to the current fiscal year is $1.9 million, of which $980,000 is to the general fund, which can be covered by current appropriations. To be transparent, we've shared that the known 2-year compounded costs for all 3 labor groups is $8.5 million, and to the general fund, $5.7 million. As noted on the slide, the labor market adjustments for year 2 will be presented to Council prior to implementation in January 2023. So with that, staff recommends that Council adopt resolutions approving the attached International Union of Operating Engineers, Stationary Engineers Local 39 MOU, and the Roseville Police Association MOU. That Council adopt the resolution approving the attached management, confidential terms, conditions, and understandings, and that Council adopt ordinances to approve the attached Salary Schedule A and Salary Schedule B reflecting the 3% base wage increase and Salary Schedule B, range B adjustment. With that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you very much, Stacy. Does the council have any questions of staff? Okay.
Scott? Yes, just one question. The compounded cost, is that cost include the pension liability of the city?
Yes, and we did spell out in the staff reports the pension costs for year one and what rolls into year two.
I mean, that's the important aspect of all of these, is what will be the cost, what will be the burden on the city budget in out years beyond any of our time up here for pension costs. So thank you.
Okay, I will open this up to public comment. And again, we are doing 3 items at once. So if there is anyone tonight that would like to speak on items 9.1, 9.3.
1,
Not
2, and
9.
3.
Okay, thank you. 9.1 to 9.1, 9.2, 9.3. Sorry. Please come forward. You can make your comment now. Okay, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the council unless there's any further deliberation. We have a motion, please.
We'll make separate motions on each one of the items.
Okay.
On 9.1, the motion is to adopt resolution number 21-500, approving a master memorandum of understanding for employees represented by the International Union of Operating Engineers, Stationary Engineers, Local 39, and authorizing the city manager to execute it on behalf of the city of Roseville, and to adopt ordinance number 6433, amending ordinance number 6420, the salary ordinance for employees represented by the International Union of Operating Engineers, and to approve as amended by Appendix A to be effective January 1st, 2022 as an urgency measure. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddashelt?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvord?
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci?
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Mayor Bernasconi?
Yes.
The second motion is to adopt resolution number 21-501, approving the terms, conditions, and understandings between the city of Roseville and management and confidential employees, and authorizing the city manager to execute it on behalf of the city of Roseville, and to adopt ordinance number 6434, amending ordinance number 6422, the salary ordinance for management employees as amended by Appendix A to be effective January 1st, 2022, as an urgency measure, and to adopt ordinance number 6435, amending ordinance number 6309, the salary ordinance for confidential employees as amended by Appendix A to be effective January 1st, 2022, as an urgency measure. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddashelt?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvord?
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci?
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Mayor Bernasconi?
Yes.
And the last motion is to adopt resolution number 21-499, approving a memorandum of understanding for non-sworn employees represented by the Roseville Police Association, and authorizing the city manager to execute it on behalf of the city of Roseville. To adopt ordinance number 6432 of the Council of the City of Roseville, amending ordinance number 6305, the salary ordinance for non-sworn employment represented by the Roseville Police Association, as amended by Appendix A to be effective January 1st, 2022, as an urgency measure. May I have a motion?
So moved. Oh, I'll second.
Vice Mayor Haddashelt?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvord?
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci?
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your work on this.
Yeah. Good job.
Okay, in front of us is item 10.1, travel and expense reimbursement policy update.
Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and City Council members. My name is Dennis Kaufman, Assistant City Manager and Chief Financial Officer. With this agenda item, staff are recommending adoption of a resolution approving an updated travel and expense reimbursement policy applicable to the City Council and members of boards and commissions. Assembly Bill 1234 was signed into law back in 2005, and this law is best known for mandating ethics training for elected officials. However, the law also requires the governing body to adopt a written policy concerning what occurrences qualify a member to receive reimbursement of expenses for travel, meals, and lodging. The law also imposes related requirements like filing expense reports to get those reimbursements. The city's travel and expense reimbursement policy was originally based on a template that was provided by the League of California Cities and is consistent with existing city regulations and policies. As you are aware, staff periodically reviews and recommends updates to city policies. This updated policy will apply to elected and appointed council members, as well as members of city boards and commissions. For boards and commissions, the city manager has to approve travel in advance to confirm that budgets exist for any planned expenditures. This policy has been updated to include modern modes of transportation, including ride-sharing companies, including Uber and Lyft. It removes applicability to other city employees because they're covered by other city administrative regulations. And it clarifies and modernizes terminology throughout the policy. Because this revised policy is substantially consistent with current city policies and practices, approval of this updated policy is anticipated to have no significant fiscal impact. So the staff recommendation tonight is to adopt a resolution approving the updated travel and expense reimbursement policy. And this concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, that was quick, but I know a lot of thought went into this. Do any of the council members have questions of Dennis?
No question.
No.
Okay, I will open this up to public comment. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to address this item? They can come forward. Okay, I'll close public comment. Any other further deliberations?
Nope.
We'll have a motion.
Motion is to adopt Resolution 21-480, adopting an updated travel and expense reimbursement policy. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddishauts?
Yes.
Councilmember Albert?
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci?
Yes.
Councilmember Mondanza?
Yes.
Mayor Bernasconi?
Yes, thank you, Dennis. We'll move into item 10.2, waste disposal and organic processing negotiations authorization. Good evening, gentlemen.
For my compadre to get here. Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the council. I'm Rich Plecker. I'm your Environmental Utilities Director, and with me this evening is Devin Whittington, our Solid Waste and Stormwater Manager. I believe that's correct. The new title. The matter before you this evening is to receive a term sheet from Recology and to direct staff accordingly. It's our hope that you direct us to enter into more specific negotiations. A few things I want to kind of touch, and then Devin's going to go sort of through the meat, if we can start the presentation, is that this matter kind of came up during the March-April timeframe of 2020 during the lockdown, the pandemic. And as you might be aware, we've sort of hammered on this from a general utility operational standpoint. We're always looking at strategies. We're looking at what do we do sort of over the horizon types of activities. As you might imagine, utility operation these days is a lot like a large risk management opportunity where there's a variety of requirements coming at you, there's a variety of constraints, there's a variety of fiscal things that are happening, and we try to juggle all of those things all at one time. So we look at operational practices. Certainly in the last several years, regulatory requirements have become an increasingly and much more significant aspect of how we engage in utility strategy development. And at the end of the day, it's really about rate impacts and costs. How do we provide reliable services to our community in a way that we can predict into the future? And so starting in that 2020 timeframe, we really started looking at, well, gee, what's going to happen with waste services? We've talked about SB 1383, the organics requirement. Some of those rules could have a pretty profound impact on customer rates. We went through the rate setting process in 2021, as you might recall. And at that point, we had just started looking at some other alternatives, one of which is looking at different places to dispose of our waste in the city. We'd said at that time that there are some things that look like they're promising and worthy of further discussion, and that's what we're bringing forward to you tonight. You've also heard us talk about different portfolio approaches to how we go about providing utilities, notably in water. I'll use that as an example where we look at surface water, different types of surface water. We look at groundwater. We look at all and parts of different things and combinations to see what's most reliable, what's most economical. I want to point out here tonight that we're not talking about leaving our existing relationship with the Western Placer Waste Management Authority, nothing of the sort. What we want to do is evaluate the economics of the different types of waste that we send to different places and to see if there's a better way for us to do that. You may have heard whenever we contemplate, Roseville contemplates thinking about or doing something, it can cause a stir in the universe a little bit. That's not our intention, is to do any of that. We're trying to take a hard look and answer questions that we would ask of ourselves as ratepayers and as customers of this city. So that'll probably make a lot more sense when Devin presents his table, which is going to come up next. But again, think about that in different pieces and parts. We have green waste, we're going to have organic waste, we're going to have mixed solid waste, we're going to have recyclables, we have e-waste, any different types of things that we have to deal with. We're trying to figure out what makes the most sense for each of those components. So with that, I'll introduce and let Devin take care of the next slide.
Yeah, good evening, council members. So if you take a look at the table, you're going to see a few different options up there, and you're going to see two different systems. You're going to see a mixed waste processing system, which we currently use, which is a 2-container system. And you're going to see the 3-container systems. That would include recycling and a container for your green waste and your food waste to be compliant with SB 1383. So when you heard Rich talk about options earlier, what really drove us down this direction is if you look at the tipping fees, which is the second row down, you can kind of go through that and you see a significant reduction in tipping fees with some of the options with Recology. However, we need to fully vet those and go through those numbers, because something that we are going to have to do if we decide to transition to a 3-container system to comply with SB 1383, we're going to have to add additional routes and additional staffing. Some of that's been included in the prior rate case, so we have up to 26 routes kind of on the books, but we want to make sure we compare apples to apples. So we have to get a total cost for each one of these columns, so we can evaluate that and then eventually bring a recommendation back to your council. So we'll kind of move to the next slide. So what we're asking for tonight is for council to receive for information a waste disposal and organics processing term sheet with the City of Roseville and Recology, and then authorize and direct staff to negotiate further terms and condition, pricing, and associated contracts for waste disposal and organics processing that would be brought back before your council at a later date for approval. And with that, that concludes our presentation. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you very much. Does the council have questions of staff?
I do. I just want to ask the question. It looks like I'm on the board for the West Placer Waste Management Authority, and on our November 29th meeting, our board authorized staff to initiate formal contract negotiations with FCC for the operation and landfill and the material recovery facility. But that's initiate formal contract negotiations. Does this help us understand what's possible there and what's possible here? Does it give her more information to help us?
Right. So from our staff's intent, how we're looking at this, we're just gathering information right now. So we're going to get the numbers, and then we would bring those back to council for ultimate approval. But we're going to take those numbers first and work with our regional partners, Western Placer Waste Management Authority, to see what can be offered at the authority and how we can best suit this from a local aspect. So there's still quite a few steps ahead of us after this point. This is essentially just asking for permission to negotiate further pricing with Recology and terms in their contract, or for potential contract.
Would this also help us with the negotiations with FCC to understand, if they knew what was, here and what might be?
So in our opinion, yes. We also do have WATMA staff here too, if they would like to answer that. But we see this as getting leverage to negotiate with FCC and also drive prices down. How Rich mentioned earlier, what really drove this was SB 1383. We're looking at costs increasing substantially over the next few years, and we're trying to find a way to mitigate those cost increases. And so this is one of our strategies to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, Devin, thank you for your presentation. In the chart you put up, I noticed that the Class 2 landfill is in Wheatland, so I assume that in those rates, you've factored in additional travel time, wear and tear, You know what I'm at?
Yeah, so right now we're estimating to go up to that facility would take us 31 routes to get there. Currently, with the 2-container system, we're at 20. To go to Western Placer Waste Management Authority would be 29 trucks. We also have brought on MSW Consulting to go through all of our numbers in detail. So they're actually going to go through this with a fine-tooth comb and find anything that we kind of left off. We did this more on the back of a napkin, so MSW Consulting is going to help us go through this. And then we're going to use those numbers and also work with our regional partners at WATMA to see what other options are available to us.
So you're asking us for permission to negotiate, essentially. You're not asking us for permission to follow one path. You may come back and say, didn't get there. Is that right?
Yeah, ultimately we'll have multiple options for your council's consideration.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm going to ask a question I know the answer to, but I want to ask it in public. Our discussions with Recology is for us to pick up and deliver to their facility, not for them to pick up in our community. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I think it's really important that our city not only be a good player to the other cities around in our JPA, basically, but even more so, we owe it to our residents to make sure we've got high quality and low cost, because that's our first customer. And so I appreciate you bringing this forward to us just to at least do some research on it.
Thank you for those comments. I agree. All right. I can't remember, did I open this up for public comment?
Not yet.
Okay. It's getting to be a late night. I'll open this up for public comment. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to address this item and come forward?
We started early.
Evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Bernasconi, members of your council. I'm Kevin Bell. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for the Western Placer Waste Management Authority, and I have Eric Otto, who is the Program Manager for the Western Placer Waste Management Authority, here with me tonight. Just want to let you know that we're committed to working with your staff and your board to help you figure out what the best solution is for the city of Roseville, and hope that we can be a part of that and be a regional partner that's a good outlet and a good resource for all of the entire region. So happy to answer any questions if you have any for Eric or myself. And that's all I had for you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for being here. Is there anyone else who would like to address this item? Okay, I'll close public comment. Any other further deliberations of my colleagues?
Rich, Devin, I'm sorry. Just want to thank you. You're always so enthusiastic. You never really was excited about waste. Never, but, you guys make it interesting.
Keep hanging around us. We'll get you interested in biosolids before you know it. It's like Michelle.
Tease me with a good time, Rich.
Yes.
Yeah, but thank you for a good presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. And this is for information only, and no actions required from us this evening. So thank you for keeping us in the loop on this.
Well, we are asking for your direction. Yeah, we are asking for your...
I'll read a motion to direct staff to conduct further negotiations regarding detailed pricing terms, conditions, and contracts associated therewith. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddishelt?
Aye.
Councilmember Albert?
Yes.
Councilmember Cucci?
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Mayor Bernasconi?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a public hearing this evening. We'll move on to item 11.1, and I will open the public hearing. Groundwater Sustainability Plan Adoption and Memorandum of Agreement.
Good evening once again, Mayor Bernasconi and members of this council. I'm Rich Plecker. I'm the Environmental Utilities Director here at the city. With me this evening is Trevor Joseph, the city's hydrogeologist, and he's going to talk to us about some details here in a minute about adopting a groundwater sustainability plan and memorandum of agreement. But before he does that, let me kind of step back in time a little bit. The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act came about in 2014, and it was a law, it was a series of laws actually that were passed that for the first time began to regulate groundwater use in California, much like surface water is used. It's a very lengthy process where it's a combination of state and local control. It relies on local agencies and regional entities to get along with each other and come up with solutions for groundwater, or the state will come in and fix it for you. So it behooves local agencies and regions to solve their own problems and come forward with a good solution. I want to say that Trevor's been integral to our process in doing this, not only informing our groundwater sustainability agency, but really leading amongst a small group of technical experts who have produced a groundwater sustainability plan for our region. So many years ago, we started off in this endeavor to hire hydrogeologists. It is a defined technical capacity. I had a difficult time convincing HR of that, but nevertheless, here we are today. And this is a skill about groundwater. So Trevor will kind of go through and talk about this. At the end of the day, we need to form a memorandum of agreement with other regional agencies to conduct this work into the future. So with that, Trevor.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having me tonight. If I could go back one slide just real quickly. I don't have a lot of slides tonight, but I want to give just a brief overview of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, as Rich covered. Talk a little bit about the North American Groundwater Subbasin. That's actually the area that this plan will cover. And also talk about the agencies that are with us in preparing this plan. A little bit about the development and stakeholder comments that we received on this plan. And talk a little bit about ongoing implementation and next steps. And then staff recommendation will be consideration of adoption and signing of an MOA. I also just want to point out real quick, I won't go through the details on the little graphic to the right, but the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act is one of the many activities, programs, or projects that the city has endeavored into making sure that we can utilize groundwater, safe and reliable groundwater supplies into the future. Next slide, please. So as Rich mentioned, there might be at least three important elements to understand about the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. Again, we're really at a pivotal milestone tonight after working for many years in preparing a groundwater sustainability plan. That's really kind of the key elements here. First, though, I want to mention groundwater basins. We overlie a groundwater basin, one of 127 that the state of California has identified that need to comply with the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. They're highlighted in yellow and orange on the map there. I always joke around Rockland and those areas outside of those areas are not really have any substantial groundwater, so they're not groundwater basins. That's why you don't see the whole state of California covered. It's largely the Central Valley. Another key element is when this act was signed, Governor Brown recognized that groundwater is best accomplished locally, local management of groundwater. And so we've worked to achieve that control, local control. There are specific roles and responsibilities in the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. I'll just briefly touch on them. We actually are one of many what are called groundwater sustainability agencies. So we've taken on this role to manage groundwater locally, and we have to prepare these plans and implement these plans. There's two state agencies that are one's going to be involved, one's potentially involved. One is the Department of Water Resources. They look at our plan, determine its technical adequacy. I actually used to work for that agency. The State Water Resources Control Board is another agency that's there for enforcement if local agencies are unsuccessful in meeting the requirements of the Act. The State Board will consider taking over local control of groundwater supplies and essentially allocate supplies to those users overlying that basin. And then finally, stakeholders. Stakeholders are definitely identified in the Act, and the whole implementation of the Act really requires going through an elaborate stakeholder engagement process. Next slide, please. So map on the right obviously shows the North American subbasin, which is bounded on the north by the Bear River, the Feather River, along the western side, the Sacramento River. The southern boundary is the American River. There's actually 5 what are called groundwater sustainability agencies that form to implement this. They're shown actually again on the right, Sutter County, Sacramento Groundwater Authority, South Sutter Water District, Reclamation District 1001, and what is then called the West Placer GSA. And to make it a little more complicated, the West Placer GSA is then made up of 5 entities, and we are one of those. And so all of these entities are moving towards adopting a final groundwater sustainability plan. Next slide, please. The regulations and law are really combination over 100 pages of very detailed information. It kind of really boils down to this slide, if you will, in terms of meeting compliance with this requirement or the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. And essentially, local agencies have to avoid these what are called undesirable results. There are these 6 items here: chronic lowering of groundwater levels, a reduction of storage, water quality degradation, land subsidence, and that's when too much groundwater is extracted and the land actually starts to buckle and drop, and then depletions of interconnected streams. Finally, seawater intrusion is obviously not applicable in our area, but we as GSAs get to define local conditions as to which would make essentially an undesirable result. We get to determine what levels, how we want to manage groundwater to avoid these items. Next slide, please. We also, as I mentioned, need to consider stakeholder interests and have a stakeholder engagement process in developing this groundwater sustainability plan. There are at least 5 beneficial uses and users of groundwater as the Act defines, or stakeholders. You can consider them as stakeholders. The top 3 are different pumpers in the basin. We are certainly one of those, although we have an aquifer storage and recovery program. We don't really seem to have a net impact on the groundwater supplies because we recharge groundwater. Agricultural use is certainly in our basin. Domestic, landowners, small domestic owners that have water wells. Again, not in the city. We actually provide, obviously, the water supply to our residents, so there really aren't domestic users in our boundaries, but certainly in the basin boundary that we all pull water from, groundwater from. And then there's environmental interests and actually surface water, and this gets somewhat technical, but if you pump groundwater, you can induce or reduce the amount of surface water in creeks, streams, and rivers, and that affects downstream users of that water. And so if too much groundwater is pumped, we can affect other users of surface water that are downstream from us. Next slide, please. I won't touch on all of this, but we went through a multi-phase process to develop this plan. As Rich mentioned, the Act was passed in 2014. We signaled to the state in 2016 our intent with other GSAs to implement and develop a groundwater sustainability plan. I just want to draw your attention. Well, one, this is not a linear timeline. Phase 3 was a very intensive period, less than a year, where we had a lot of stakeholder meetings and really made sure we considered those beneficial uses and users of groundwater. In some cases, their interests may be opposed, but we work to balance those interests in preparing the plan in terms of how we want to manage groundwater. And the last thing I'll point out here is we had a 60-day public comment period that closed, considered all of the comments, and obviously, we're at the end of Phase 4, really looking to hopefully take that next jump into Phase 5 of submitting this plan to the state and implementing this plan on an ongoing basis. Next slide, please. The plan itself is more than 1,000 pages of technical information. Appendix P, the groundwater modeling documentation, is 500 pages itself. The plan itself, I think, is a little less than 400 pages. This is all available on the North American Subbasin website. I do want to point out, again, those stakeholder comments that we received on this draft before working towards making it a final document. We received comments from landowners, state and federal agencies, and non-government environmental organizations. We evaluated every comment. We considered every comment. In many cases, we acted on those comments to try to make a more robust and inclusive plan. Next slide, please. In terms of GSP implementation, 2 things here to get across here is the MOA, the Memorandum of Agreement. This is really signaling to the state the GSA's intent to come together and implement this plan, and includes provisions in terms of how we will meet, conflict resolution, those kind of items, working with legal staff to develop this MOA. The budget, this is over a 5-year period, and this goes on essentially in perpetuity, the Act requirements. But a 5-year budget, we're looking at $1 million to implement this for the entire basin. Again, there's multiple GSAs. The West Placer obligation at this time is estimated at $76,000 approximately every year. Our portion of that is roughly estimated at $25,000 dollars per year. And this would be coming from the Water Operations Fund, if approved to implement. Next slide, please. One point to get across here in terms of next steps, as I mentioned, all these GSAs are working towards now adopting this plan. The reason we are looking to adopt it at this time is to make sure that we can meet the state deadline, which is January 31st, 2022, to submit that plan. The adoption schedule shown here, Sacramento Groundwater Authority adopted it last week. Sutter County just adopted it last night. Obviously, we're here today. South Sutter, and so on and so forth. So all the agencies are working towards adopting this plan at this time. Next slide, please. So legally, how the Act describes adoption is after a public hearing, the GSAs can consider adoption of that plan. So staff's recommendation is to seek council's support of this plan, adoption, and then also the signature of the memorandum agreement to implement this plan with our fellow GSAs on behalf of the entire groundwater subbasin. And I think that's the second to last slide. Last slide's just a closing slide. So I know that was a lot of information and kind of quickly presented, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Trevor. Does the council have any questions of staff?
Just a comment. How's that? And this is tremendous. I was on the beginning when we found out that we have this timeline and we have to do something, and we met with PCWA, people from Placer County and Roseville, and starting out and saying, how we're going to get together, and then also looking at our neighbors at Sutter County. And from that very beginning to what you see now, because a lot of people, you weren't sure exactly what it meant, and also what it ended up turning to be is that if you have a good plan and you work together on this, you have something that's in your local control and your regional control. It's not something the state mandates, as was presented here, is that if you do not have a plan, or if you have a plan that is not acceptable or it can't be fixed, the state will fix it for you. And this way, it gives us much more say of our water and making sure that our water is sustainable for future. I'm looking at this. It's kind of like seeing your baby grow up. It's like, whoa, this is something. So I'm pleased that we worked so hard with a lot of different groups, because and really trying to work and understand what things do we have in common and how do we gain something for our region and for our community for the future. So thank you for all the work you've been doing on it.
Thank you for your comments.
Trevor, you listed Lincoln as one of the partners. Is that the NID portion? Is Lincoln covering the NID portion?
I forget exactly where the NID boundaries are. NID actually initially was part of this effort and then decided against it because actually they didn't feel that they were part of the basin. So at this time, NID's not involved, but Lincoln certainly is.
Fine. The allocation, so you mentioned $25,000 a year. How did the allocation methodology work?
Yeah, a lot of it was related to population and then just, terms of area. And so I don't have the exact numbers in terms of how we got
fine.
there. But
that's it's close enough for me. And the last thing, you said it's like your baby growing up. This is like going.
Precious.
I thought for a moment I was back at the office today, right? So this is the world I operate in, the maps and all this stuff. I work on the water quality side. So when you mention 1,000-page document, I'm really salivating. I'm just looking at that water quality trend monitoring stuff. So thank you, Trevor.
I missed it in the documentation, but I was wondering if you could give an example or two of some of the stakeholder comments, some of the more significant things.
Yeah. So some of the stakeholder comments were, as you can imagine, somewhat detailed. But for example, there's Valley Oaks that are identified as a groundwater-dependent ecosystem. And groundwater-dependent ecosystem, as the name implies, if groundwater is shallow enough, it sustains some vegetation. And so if you draw that water levels down, then you essentially can kill off that vegetation. So there were environmental groups that were concerned that maybe we didn't have the management levels in terms of water levels dialed in appropriately for the vegetation types that they certainly are advocating for. And so we adjusted some of those. For Valley Oak, I bring up that in particular, is we changed that from 30 feet to 80 feet. Essentially what that means is we're more inclusive of areas in the basin that may have groundwater between 0 and 80 feet, trying to manage then those water levels to ensure that Valley Oaks will always have water and can be sustained. Other comments related just to ongoing stakeholder communication engagement. Domestic wells is a big one right now with the drought. Not so much in our basin, we're not feeling it, but other basins that have much more dire condition, they're kind of the shortest straws, if you will. Think of your wells as different length straws. Ag wells and our municipal wells are deeper straws, and domestic self-supplied landowners have shallower straws. And so when the water levels go down, their straws are left dry. And so that's really happening in a lot of areas, again, in kind of the Fresno-Bakersfield portion of the state. And so there were concerns, do we have those water levels dialed in to help substantiate their interests in making sure that they don't lose their supply. And it's an example of we essentially developed a management action in the plan responding to that comment so we can strengthen the dialogue with domestic well users. Again, we're participating with the county and others that really have this condition. Roseville itself doesn't have domestic well owners, but obviously we all need to be part of the solution in making sure that all those beneficial users are not left without water.
Excellent examples. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. I will open up to public comment. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to comment on this item? Okay, I'll close public comment. Does the council have any further deliberation? Close the public hearing and ask our clerk to please read the motion.
To adopt resolution number 21-497, adoption of the Groundwater Sustainability Plan for the North American Groundwater Subbasin, and authorizing submittal of the GSP to the California Department of Water Resources on behalf of the City of Roseville as a participating member of the Western Placer Groundwater Sustainability Agency, and adopt resolution 21-498, approving a memorandum of agreement regarding coordination between groundwater sustainability agencies and implementation of the groundwater sustainability plan for the North American Subbasin by and between the City of Lincoln, the City of Roseville, the County of Placer, the County of Sutter, the Natomas Central Mutual Water Company, the Placer County Water Agency, the Reclamation District 1001, the Sacramento Groundwater Authority, and the South Sutter Water District, and authorizing the city manager to execute it on behalf of the City of Roseville. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Second.
Vice Mayor Haddashelt?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvord?
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci?
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
Mayor Bernasconi?
Yes. Thank you very much for all this information work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to, well, we have one last public comment. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to comment on any item that's not on the agenda? Now's your chance. Okay, I'll close public comment, and we will, does staff have anything they would like to report out on?
Thank you.
Does the council have anything they'd like to report out on?
Just a couple things, real quick. I want to shout out to our environmental utilities with I went to the Aqua Conference, which is Association of California Water Agencies, and one of the awards they got was they look at all the regions and if they've done well, and it's called Outreach Recognition Awards, and it's like I wasn't really sure what that meant, but what it is the regions that have done outstanding in their state legislative rulings and worked with the state and on critical water issues. And so our lobbyists are people who help here in-house. And so our region, which is Region 3, City of Roseville, was recognized. And there's more in a region than just City of Roseville. It's a lot of them. There's actually 10 regions, so it recognized us as one of them. And with Noel Maddock doing a lot of work, and I'm sure a lot of the whole team working on governmental relations. So that was something really surprising to have Roseville's name up there. And a couple other things. I went to the Placer County Flood Control and Water Conservation Board meeting, and many times what that organization does is make sure that makes plans for the future for safety. And so they do a lot of compliance, like update monitor devices so they can regulate how fast the water's going and where there's areas in Placer County that could flood and which would go first. And I thought it was really interesting at our last meeting. There was let me see it was one of our detention basins, Miners Ravine Detention Basin, which was built in 2007, and for safety, to make sure that if there was a flood of between the 10 or 50-year event, that it would open up, the weir would open up, and it would go in the detention basin and make it safer for our community. And it actually worked, but it did occur in October of 2021, first time it ever was used. And it was really neat because they said when they saw that, the people who helped build it and design it, they called them up and said, yes, everything that was planned, it did happen. And so we were real excited, but it was a real good thing to see that all these plans are there. It's like anything, you hope you don't have to use it, but if you did, it's there. And so this happened, and why it's important to make sure we have those detention bases and looking at where we can help prevent floods and of real significant amounts. So that was kind of neat. And the only other thing I was going to mention. NCPA, Northern California Power Agency, here in Roseville, they have their headquarters in Roseville. They had a ribbon cutting for having their first EV chargers on their parking lot, so that was new for them. They have third level 2 EV chargers in their parking lot, and with a shout out to Roseville, because it was partially funded with rebates from Roseville Electric Utility. But Roseville Electric also offers rebates and services to help businesses and residents to install chargers. And the funding comes from the utility's participation in programs offered by California Air Resources Board. And that was, I know it's silly because some of you have hybrid cars, and I don't. But this is the first time I got to use and see what it feels like to fuel up your car with electricity. So it was really interesting. It was like learning something new. So it was really great, and I'm happy for them and for their employees and their visitors who can take advantage of having the chargers on site. That's it.
I'm cognizant of the hour, so I won't go into a lot of detail. It's been a busy couple weeks with a lot of community events and lots of goodwill and volunteer organizations and things, and I was happy to be a part of those. I did want to report out on 2 things that I have as my council assignments. At the Arcona meeting, the last Arcona meeting, I won't go into too much detail on that because, I don't want to get into any hot water about districting and maps. But if you are curious, Arcona did have a meeting, and they did decide to, for lack of a better word, support a particular map. If you're interested in that and which map it was, and that discussion that took place from the Roseville Coalition of Neighborhood Associations, you can go on the city website. There's a link to Arcona, or you can go to their website directly, arcona.org, and you'll find the information on that meeting, and you can educate yourself as to what they decided and their reasons for supporting a particular map. Also, My other council assignment is the Roseville Police Athletics League. They have a golf tournament that we are going to be doing that's going to replace the usual crab feed that we're not doing next year. There will be information coming out on that in early 2022 with some sponsorship opportunities and some really good things that we're trying to fold into this golf tournament. It'll be at Sierra View Country Club. And we expect to start putting some information out on that mid-January. So if you're a golfer and are interested in getting a team together for a really good cause later in early 2000, I would encourage you to go on the RPAL website after the new year and check out that information. And then I just have one other ask of the public. Some of you may be aware, it's made some of the local news channels. We have a local business, Nick's Tacos, out on the east side of Roseville, and they were unfortunately hit. Someone stole one of their green eggs that they use for their to keep their business open and to cook their meat on. They've received numerous national culinary awards. If you haven't eaten there, it's a great place. If you have, you know what I'm talking about. So I would just ask, the Roseville Police Department has a link on their page, and they've got some information about some footage and some information on this. There's also a picture from a surveillance camera of someone that they believe is a suspect. So if you get a chance, maybe go on there and see if you recognize that person, or if someone comes to your door trying to sell you a slightly used green egg, maybe report that to the police, because it's probably needs to be returned to Nick's Tacos, and I'm sure they would be appreciative of getting that back so they can continue to run their business, and especially in these lean times coming out of a lot of the businesses suffering from COVID, any extra obstacles. I'd love to be able to help them out. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go rapid fire here, and I'll have a theme. It'll be water. So I got back from the Association of California Water Agencies in Pasadena and went as part of my my day job working for Northern California Water Association. And one of the greatest things I did upon return was to have pancakes at Fire Station 7 and see a number of my colleagues who had that day been shopping on the Apostolos shopping event. Pauline, you're right about the flood control. It's important. I was driving back from Williams on Monday night in the storm, and as I drove to work today along Baseline in Riego, boy, there's a lot of water out there. As I mentioned, when we honored Kathy Barsotti earlier this evening, I saw her because I went to the Apostolos Day to shop for needy school children on Saturday. And I got home in time to see the Army-Navy game. My dad, my late father, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law are Army veterans. But our mayor and our deputy city attorney are not. So they got to sing second. If you know anything about the tradition of the Army-Navy game, the winner of that game gets to sing second. So congratulations to the mayor and Megan Scheid for their branch singing second. Sites Reservoir has a meeting, and I'll be participating as the Roseville PCWA representative on Friday. There was an important day yesterday, I believe it was yesterday. Councilmember Rakucci celebrated a birthday. And then Saturday, I think some of us are all going to be laying wreaths across America at the cemetery. So thank you, Mayor. That's what I had.
Thank you.
Well, this is our last meeting of the year, which is kind of exciting. I wanted to touch on a couple things. The tree lighting that we had the day after our last meeting was fantastic. Huge turnout in the community, and a lot of neat things there. But the one thing that just really stood out to me, it was just a sense of community, togetherness, a lot of excitement, and it was fun to be part of that community. People were just itching to get out and be together, and it was exciting. The Roseville Coalition of Neighborhood Associations had a Santa in the Park event at Maidu. They did a drive-through Santa in the Park this time. Hopefully we'll go back to indoors. Worked out really well. A lot of people showed up, hopped out of the car, got the kids' photos with Santa, kept him safe. They got crafts and snacks, given to them back in the car, and they were on their way. And it was just a neat processing thing and a great way to get some high-quality photos for free for the community. And thank you, Arcona, for doing that. Got to spend a holiday PAC meeting with PAC 804, and it was a lot of fun taking questions from the scouts and some of their parents as well. It's always great to talk to future leaders and public servants at such a young age. We talked a lot about public service and what that really means and how they're on the right track there. I serve on the RPAL board with Tracy, and there's a family from RPAL and there's another family in the community. The Roseville Volunteer Force is trying to help these two families. One of them has a father who is terminally ill, and they're trying to raise money. Tomorrow's the deadline, trying to raise money to help the parents give a memorable Christmas to their child. And then the RPAL family, it was a father who passed away suddenly, and he was a great volunteer at RPAL, and he has a couple kids that were involved, and so they're trying to raise money to help provide some things that are necessary and use Christmas as the reason for doing that. So if you're interested, the Roseville Volunteer Force is in, it's on Facebook and neighborhood next door. Served on LAFCO and GSEC, the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. Nothing really big to report out. They're both doing their job, serving the community in their different areas. Got to hop in on a Zoom meeting for the closing ceremony of the Seva Diwali ceremony, the closing ceremony. Coffee with a Cop was on the west side of town. It was at Mojo's Cafe. That was really neat, quite a turnout from the police. The school was just getting let out as I was leaving, so they were just starting to get real busy. But the community members that were there were just really excited to talk to the cops, not only the little kids, but the adults. The police officers were just really friendly, walking up to people, engaging conversation with them, and it was just fun to watch. And proud to be having that kind of a police force that's so community-oriented. And this morning, we got to celebrate the Main Street Plaza in historic Old Town, and our mayor did a good job of presenting. And that was a long project. The city put they donated land and helped a lot with funding and getting people housed there. But that's a nice asset for our community as far as affordable housing goes and helping our veterans and people with some mental conditions that need some help. And then the last thing I just want to mention is it has been a solid year for our mayor. She served for 1 year of her 2-year term as mayor, and I thought she's done a fantastic job. So thank you very much, Krista. We're excited to have you for another year.
Thank you for that. And thank you all for being here tonight. It's been one of our longer meetings, and we started in closed session at 4:30, so we've been here all night. Plus, I know all of us have been busy with our committees outside of these council meetings. I've had, just to name a few, a couple SACOG meetings, a meeting with Sun City, and a staff member, Ryan DeVore, was with me on that one, a homelessness unsheltered task force, which the vice mayor and I serve on, and it's been a full couple weeks, and Christmas is 10 days from today, so I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Stay very safe, enjoy your time with your families, and we'll see you back here in January. We just have one meeting in January 19th, so thank you for all that you do. Considering we've got pretty much all staff members, I'll just say thank you for all that you do. Have a good evening. And
move to adjourn.
And Sonia, is this the last? I think you should call us to adjourn.
Okay.
And we did, the council did get you something here too.
Thank you. So the motion would be to adjourn the meeting at 8:15 p.m. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddishelt.
If I say no, does that mean you stay? Okay, yes.
She's out no matter what.
She's walking out of here no matter what.
Councilmember Alvord.
Yes. And we love you, Sonia.
Thank you. Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes. Thank you, Sonia, so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
Welcome. Enjoy.